There it goes. All right, welcome everybody. This is Dale Maxwell. You have found KickASSery. What is KickASSery? KickASSery is where I get to talk to kick-ass people like Clifford Starks. I get to talk to just the most amazing people in the world. This is the opportunity for me to brag on the people that I have in my life, the people that, I admit I am a people collector. And I collect these people from all over the world. That is one benefit of being a military wife, is we get to travel all over the world. The other benefit of meeting amazing people and learning about things is I get the opportunity to be introduced to new people. And I have the opportunity, as a matter of fact, this young lady made this introduction happen. Thank you, Michelle. We get to talk to the one, the only, Clifford Starks. Clifford, how are you doing today, man?
Doing amazing. Especially you're calling me kick-ass person. I love that. Yeah, keep that poured in.
Dude, you are an ass kicker, man. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me throw this out there. So my introduction for this young gentleman is Michelle connected us, a week and a half ago, a week ago, whatever that was.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago now. And phone call, just jump on, phone call. And Clifford's like, Dale, I got to go because we've been talking for way too long. Dude, we just connected. And the energy and the camaraderie and the things that I learned from you in that short phone call was incredible. And I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. And I'm super excited to learn more about you. I did kind of go out and do a little bit of sleuthing and kind of snooping around to see, who is this dude? I wanted to learn more about you. And ladies and gentlemen, this young gentleman has done some incredible things, amazing things. Beyond being a coach in his current life, you also were a UFC fighter, and you currently are very active, if I'm correct, jiu-jitsu still today.
Yep.
And so I went back and this is so cool, ladies and gentlemen. I'm geeking out. This is so weird to me in a good way. I went back and I watched a couple of your fights and I was like, holy gee, I'm going to have that dude on the show. This is wicked. This is wild. So, okay, I'm going to stop gushing. Clifford, who are you? What do you do? Where do you come from? What is this?
Yeah, first, thank you for the intro. 100% appreciate it. And I will say the only reason I had to get off the phone is because I have a family and I have to make sure to take time for them as well, because I love meeting new, interesting people. And Michelle did introduce us to one another. And I love your journey, what you've been through, your challenges and your trials and your tribulations. And I'm a guy who likes to make big thinkers think even bigger than they did before. And what I mean by that is, every challenge I've ever had, I've faced and I've leaned into, and I've shocked myself and I've shocked other people. And I just continue to do that. I'm a lover and a fighter, both literally and figuratively. I fight for what I want to fight for. I stand for what I stand for. And I love the people that I love. And I love them very deeply and fully. And I just want to say people are amazing. The potential that we have, both in the positive and in the negative. And so if I have a way to serve someone, to show their bright light, to show their greatness, I want to be a part of it. And if they want to live in the darkness, I don't want to be any part of that.
That is so true. And, it's Clifford. So I just had a conversation yesterday with a dear friend, and we went deep. We went really deep. It was just one of those life timing conversations. And we went super deep. And, that was part of the conversation we had too, is that, I'm getting older. We're all getting older, and the BS meter is getting more sensitive. And I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at life more now as I'm tired of negative. I'm looking at what needs to be done to be more positive on the daily. And that's inside too. That's the negativity that's going on up here daily.
Yeah.
And I feel maybe I have more than others, maybe not as much as others. I don't know. But it's like we're about halfway, we're halfway to the end of this journey. You know, I want the next half to be freaking phenomenal and amazing. And meeting and learning from people like yourself, that this is part of my journey of that happiness. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you being open to do this, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And that's you know, I love people so much that it's interesting. If a person's going to be dark, I want to give them a reason not to be, or at least make them aware enough to realize that they're even being that way. Because sometimes a person being a jerk doesn't even know they're being a jerk until you kind of point it out to them, like, this is what you're doing. Like, I've been doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's perception and intention.
Yep.
You know, if there's no intent, then it can be perceived as whatever. And if it's coming across that way, and like you said, if you're not recognizing it, that's I I get frustrated, and maybe the frustration's not proper, but if I've been messing up and I've been doing something incorrectly, rudely, whatever the case may be, it's not been positive, and nobody tells me I'm doing it, I can't get better.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yep.
grow from that unless you call me out on my BS.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's literally, for my journey at least, this is what I've been perceiving, self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-transformation. And I say self-acceptance because our minds are the trickiest things. They're smart. You know, they're smart enough to keep us where we're at. And if we aren't accepting, then we can't be aware. And so
Yeah.
that's where I look at, like, the reason I can talk with a person who's being a certain way is because you can do something about the outcome, right? Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
always an option to do something about the outcome. Either that's walk away or lean into it. And I choose what I choose in the moment that I choose it. Sometimes I want to lean into it. Sometimes I want to walk away from it. That's the beauty of the game. But with that being said, like, my self acceptance allows me to, whatever I see in them is also in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can support them in that or choose not to. It's my choice.
Right. So how did you get to where you're at? You know, when we had our conversation the other day, you know, you and I we're very alike in the fact that we go all over the place, you know. But how tell me how you got where you're at now. I mean, your journey in the short amount of time we had is incredible. And I love people's stories. So, and I'm not asking you to get eyeball deep into it, but you know, going from your childhood, which was hard, into your
Uh-huh.
fighting career, which was hard, to being a coach, which is hard. You seem to be one of those guys that just chooses the hard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
So what's interesting, life is a game. Oh, can you hear me? I think it lagged for a second.
Yes.
Okay. So this is great question. Hard is just an illusion that we create for ourselves. There is no hard or easy. There's just how we see it. The hardest way to live, to me, again, my perception, if I go on my deathbed saying, I didn't do anything, that is the hardest life lived ever. But if I can go on my deathbed saying, holy crap, I fought in the UFC, I fought in Bellator, 2 amazing children, married for several decades, enjoyed the journey, coached people up, grew a business, helped other business owners grow their businesses, that's cool. And so I look at life as we get to live it, or we can complain about it, but everybody's living some sort of life, and some people have harder lives than us, and some people have easier lives than us. The truth is, though, we get to choose how we want to take our reality. And so to me, my reality is I'm going to ride as many waves as I can and have a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully find some people who want to do the same thing.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So you mentioned family a minute ago. And one of the things that I love doing, and I mentioned this when we were in our green room, is I love doing some snooping and kind of doing a little stuff like that. So you mentioned your family.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful family.
Thank you. And there's little Titus. There's not a lot of pictures of him. He's the 2-year-old.
Oh, I couldn't find any. I apologize.
I know he doesn't show his face very often.
But, and here's the thing. You mentioned when we were on the phone that your family is super important to you because you want to be a great father and you want to be a great husband and moving forward with that. And I find it, what's the right way to say this? When we change family legacy, there's good legacy and there's bad legacy. And when we take what our fathers and our mothers and our grandparents and make conscious decisions to make change, that's generational.
Yep.
That's generational. And that takes introspection and guts to do that. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's been such a grateful journey. I will say one thing you did ask me is why do you do the tough things? Well, I was raised in a world where life was tough, like right out the gate. We get to choose when we want to learn our lessons. And there's a saying, God hit you with a feather, a baseball bat, and a semi truck. And sometimes we got to get hit by that semi truck to learn the lesson. 4, 5, and 6. Like my life can be defined by 4, 5, and 6. I had a biological dad, drove out of my life at the age of 4. My grandfather passed away at 5. And my dad, that I call dad to this day, came into my life at 6. I mean, my mom literally got married to him at 6. And I kind of took that as, okay, there's people who are going to be there for you when they don't have to be there for you. There's people who are not going to be there for you, and they're actually supposed to be there for you for what we know, and we're all going to die. And so I took those lessons and I said, I'm going to live as much life as I can. I'm going to experience as much as I can as I go through this process. And in doing that, like, I'm always learning and always growing and always readjusting. But I wanted to influence 1 billion people. I didn't know that they were going to influence me as much as I influenced them. I had no idea. I didn't know that there was times my son was going to pick up and be the leader that I needed him to be and help me lead even better and help his mom lead even better. They say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I think there's student and teacher in all of us all the time. And we have to be open to say, what lesson do I want to learn? Or what lesson do I want to teach? And sometimes just teaching a lesson, you actually learn it better too. So there's that too. But it's about experiencing life, experience the fullness and the richness. Yeah, I want to be the best dad that I can be. And at times I made mistakes because I wanted to be the best dad that I could be. Sometimes when my kid skins his knee or hurts himself, I don't want them to feel the pain that I felt. But the truth is, it's not the pain itself, it's how we view the pain. It's how we view the pain and how we can find solutions to the problems. And so I do my best to let them know that they're problem solvers. That's what we are. We solve problems because they come, and they come when we don't even expect them to come. We come when we do it perfectly right.
Okay, so you said a couple things that I'm super intrigued on. Is you said you want to influence 1 billion. Okay, that is an astronomical number.
Yeah.
That's intimidating is a small word for that.
Yeah.
What? Okay, ask it in this way. What gives you the balls to go, I'm going to influence 1 billion people?
Yeah. That is a good question. I know when we say something with complete conviction, the odds of it coming to fruition are way greater than playing small. Like if you go, I'll hear oftentimes a person says, I just want to influence one person. I just want to influence one person. And I say, why think small? Why not think big? I love how Grant Cardone says, go big and then people say go home. And he says, no, go bigger. And I love the way he thinks. It's were we here to play small? Is that really what we wanted to do? Is just say, oh, well, I just want to save one person. F that. That's where my mind goes. F that. And the balls, it came from realizing everybody has a lot of junk in here. Every time I surpassed a goal, I'd get to the goal, and then all of a sudden people were like, we always knew you could do that. No, they didn't. That's not what they were saying when I was going after the goal. And it's the same cycle and the same process every single time. But I'll give you an example. I wanted to fight in the UFC in less than a year. That was a ballsy thing to say. And the worst that could happen is I didn't get there, but I'm a little bit closer the next time. But surprisingly enough, even with my coach, who didn't think it was going to happen, we ended up pulling it off in 10 months. Yeah, fun times.
That, brother, okay, so several things that you're saying right there. I'm going to use the word intimidating. That picture right there is super intimidating to me. And because you did it, you were there, and you made it happen. And the other thing, okay, I want to clarify a question is, how do you work through the junk in your head?
I don't. I just take action. So here's what's interesting. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's what I help do. So, because I focus on the mindset specifically. And what's interesting, you'll do things, and sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. So we have a thought, a feeling, an action, a result, right? And what I would do was I would surpass my feelings and surpass my thoughts and just take the action. Like, all right, if I take the action, then it's already done. It's already said and done. And then you just get better at acting, right? You get better and better and better and better, and you get to where you're looking to go. Well, I realized, okay, a lot of people have trouble with that part. Like they have trouble with taking action. So I would ask questions that would make it where they could think about it right, feel about it right, and then act on it. But the biggest thing that I've learned, give me a second because my son is calling me.
I love it. I love it. You're good. See, this is what it's about. This is life. This is the way it is.
Yes, it is.
This is the way it is.
So when I talk about my biggest thing is I want people to take the action, but I want them to take the action because they wanted to take the action. I could force a person to take action. But then what happens when you're not there? Then it's just kind of like you haven't taught them the framework to do things with or without you. And I think in my mind, you're not gifting that person to the fullness of what they could be. The reason I take action, I know what actions do. So I'm looking at it and I'm taking horrible action in the beginning. Everything that I did was an overweight kid wanted to lose weight. Terrible action. You get better at taking action from the quantity. Quantity creates quality if you're doing it with intent. Fighting. I sucked. I was a terrible fighter when I first started. And in 5 weeks, Trevor's like, how did you improve that quickly? Like he was even shocked. And what was interesting, he started believing that maybe we can pull this off. This 1 year thing that he was planning, maybe he's not as crazy as I thought he was.
Nice.
And so that the balls come from taking the action. Like I know actions lead to results.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking about like, oh, well, what happens when the lion chases me? I don't have to think about it. I just act and run away from the lion.
What is your then? Okay, so that brings up another question. What is your philosophy of failure?
At one time, I believe that it did exist. In my new perception, it doesn't even exist. It's not even real. It's what it like, you got an F. No, it just means you sucked at something that you did for your first time. And did you really suck at it if you did it for your first time? Or did you just do it for your first time?
Right. 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 And okay, so because as a coach and doing what you do, the fear of failure freezes a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Most of us probably
Yeah.
it just puts our feet in ice cold water and we don't move.
Yeah.
So the challenge, I'll bring it to what you and I are doing right now. A challenge that I've had working with people to do what we are doing in this moment, talking to a camera, being broadcast to whoever wants to see this at any given time, that fear is palpable to people. I mean, it is okay. In Western society, the fear of public speaking ranks up there with death and arachnophobia, right? It creates a physical response in people. Doing what you and I are doing right now magnifies that fear.
Yeah.
So the challenge always with the folks that I've tried to work with in the past and getting them to do this is it doesn't freaking matter. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to say something dumb. It's going to seem silly. Somebody's going to say something asinine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, moving on,
Yeah.
getting better. Just like you said, you just failing forward. That's
Yeah.
a philosophy I love is failing forward. Yeah, this sucked. Let's do it again. Let's do it
Yeah.
again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And eventually either that brick wall is going to fall down from you beating your head on it long enough, or you're going to figure out that wall's thicker than my head. Let's figure a different way out.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I look at, when a person, the one thing that I do know is a person has to either have the right thought, feeling, or action. And since feelings are the bridge, like feelings tend to be the bridge for people to take the action. It's hard to take an action if, like, let's say when you turn the key to the ignition and the car blows up. And every time, like, that's going to be hard for a person to counteract because their minds are going to be so freaked out. Remember what happened last time. Remember what happened last time. So I don't I don't like say, oh, you just need to take action. But I'm going to ask questions, because if I can just find one part where it's not true, that's when it can unravel the thing that we've encased ourselves into. Because that's what we're doing. We encase ourselves, and it's
Yeah.
nobody's fault. We're born into certain belief systems, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of seeing things. And so even being a part of a tribe, we don't want to look like idiots in the tribe. You're just like, if I don't look like an idiot, I'm good. But we don't realize what the risk and reward really lays out to that, because the leader is the one who has to stand for something.
Yes.
And yeah, sometimes the leader's going to stand for the wrong thing. Now what do I do? Pretend like it wasn't wrong? No, you just say, like, I effed this up. I learned this, and this. And this is what we're going to do next time. People love a transparent leader. And I didn't even know that. I just kind of lived a very transparent life. Like, yeah, that sucked. Or, yeah, that was my fault. Oh,
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I actually it's always my mistake. Always. But I didn't realize that was a lesson for everybody else.
Right.
And myself.
Yeah, 100%, man. And, two things on that, if you don't mind, is that, the old saying is, yeah, that one just poof. Never mind. The point that I was getting at is you can only help those who want to be helped. Trying to help somebody that is accepted and living in their situation, you're just beating your head against the wall. Though those who are willing to be helped and those who are willing to do the work and be vulnerable and make those mistakes and make those quote unquote failures or oopses, that allows you, me, whomever, to really ask those questions and be allowed to unravel. The other thing you were talking about is, as a leader, it's always your fault, 100%. And that's why leadership can be in parts very lonely.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation and the organization and whatnot, it can be very lonely because it all falls on the good and the bad all falls on your shoulders. Small example, really small example. I'm part of my kids are on a swim team here on the island, and I'm on the board. We were having a board meeting. I ended up running the meeting, and it fell upon me in that moment to take responsibility for things I didn't even do. But somebody needed to take responsibility. Be like, hey, this is on me. If you got to be angry at somebody, be angry at me. It's okay. I've got a hard head and broad shoulders. And then that way we can move forward. I am not looking to get stuck in this moment of finger pointing, whatever, and go, we made an oopsie. That was on us. We're trying to get better. And if you need to be angry at somebody, please be angry at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then that way, and I'm not trying to say, it's just, then that way the rest of the team can move and they can produce and they can do their work. And if somebody needs to, I'm right here, bring it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. And I actually had one of the parents come up a couple days later and they're like, you didn't need to do that. I appreciate it, but you didn't, because they recognized it, because they're a leader as well. And they recognized, and that's one thing about leadership. Leaders recognize what other leaders are doing.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing that really resonated with me was, you said leadership can sometimes be lonely. I really want to eradicate that in a way, because I feel leaders should support other leaders. Because if you could you imagine if, I'm going to do it on the football field. And here's the thing. It's not a sport just the sake of a sport. A sport provides life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And when people can see it as such, it's not like, oh, well, this is just a sport. They're all the same thing. It's psychology. If a football player, if a quarterback throws an interception and then their mind's all screwed up and they're thinking about that interception and they're throwing interceptions left and right, and then their team's booing them, the crowd's booing them, and it's like, don't you want your leader to perform at the best? Like,
Yeah.
if that's their position, wouldn't you want them to rise in the position
Yeah.
instead of throwing tomatoes at them, hating on them, pointing them down and booing on them? And then you wonder, like, oh, this person's such an idiot. Well, what do you think's going to happen to a person?
Right.
What would happen to any individual? That's
Yeah.
a question I ask to everybody is, how would you feel if the society was whooping your butt because you made a bad decision?
Right. And okay, so in that vein right there, brother, is that's what we see every day, though. As a society, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing in
Yeah.
politics, we're seeing in business, is that the CEO of XYZ Corporation made a bad choice. And now the media and their stockholders and everybody is just, that was the dumbest thing and they're horrible and we should get rid of them, right? The cancel
Yeah.
culture thing. Or we
Mhm.
do watch that football game and the quarterback
Mhm.
is the pinnacle of the team and the quarterback makes a fumble. Okay, maybe that was the center's fault. Maybe that
Mhm.
was, a miss call. But what we see as a society is we're seeing everybody come down on them. So, like you were saying earlier, that's what we're raised in.
Yep.
That's what we see. Oh, you're the president of the club. Oh, well, it's
Yeah.
all your fault.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll take that responsibility as the president of the blah blah blah. But that's where team comes in. That's where community comes in.
Yeah.
That's I'm a big I'm huge on community, and I'm huge on it. It takes a tribe to do
Mhm.
anything, and I love coaching kids. I've been coaching my kids in soccer since they were 5.
Nice.
And one of the things that I love, I'm not the best soccer coach in the world. I'm not. I'm not the best technical coach in the world. I'm not. I know a few things. What I love is what you already said, the life lessons that we're able to coach. I'm not
Yeah.
there just to teach them how to kick a ball and how to do crossovers and how to do a corner kick. Yes, that's the technical part of the game. The other thing that we're coaching, teaching, mentoring, whatever the term we want to use, is camaraderie, sportsmanship, communication. When someone's down, are you going to kick them or are you going to pick them up and take
Mhm.
care of them? That's what we do as a team. That's what we do as a society. Yeah,
Yep.
if somebody screws up, such is life.
Yeah.
And if
Uh,
they're a
and
good
I'll say,
person,
you're the
go ahead.
best Dell in the world. You're the best Dell in the world. And
I
I
love
say
that.
that just to say, like, there's a saying, be the change. And so I
Mm,
do my best to just be the change. Even as I talk about how we should be and what we should do and how we should act and take responsibility, one thing that I do know for sure is when I take the time to love up on someone and listen to a person, they take the time to love up on me and listen to me.
mm,
And that happens very consistently, to the point sometimes people want to say, well, not everyone's that way. And they're not. And that's okay.
yeah,
Does that mean to put a filter on and make sure that you're like, and in fact, I do say put a filter on, but put a filter on by asking questions and seeing if they qualify or not to be a part of what you are and what your journey is. But most people, um, they want the best for others and they want the best for themselves. But here's the rub. Most people want the best for themselves first. and they get it twisted all the time. I get to hear this, oh, no, I'm doing this because of, just be straight with yourself and say, I want the best for me. And then ask the question, why is that? And why do I think that's the best for me?
How do we navigate that? I mean,
Oh, it's easy. Self-acceptance. It starts with self-acceptance. I can be just like any other human being on the planet. Could be the next Martin Luther King, the next Adolf Hitler. And when I know that, like, I don't think people wake up saying, I want to just destroy the world. Like, I don't think that's what's happening. I think that's a hurt individual with a plan and a strategy. And
so
well, the interesting thing, as I'm actually saying this out loud, Adolf Hitler was created, not just by himself either. You know, there was anger in that. And when we look at the tribes, like I look at the tribes and say, okay, how do we put the tribes in a position to support one another and respect one another? And I do know strength is a part of that. Because if you're not strong enough to protect yourself, guess what? The strong are going to run you over. Why? Because they can. There's going to be kind, strong ones, but they're busy doing their stuff.
Right.
Get strong.
How do we get strong?
Strong mind. Strong mind all day long. And ask ourselves the question, what's interesting, since I realize this is a game of psychology and a game of communication, when you can communicate effectively and you can lead effectively, you can do anything good or anything bad. So I recommend doing the good and doing right by people, because I would hate to leave this world worse than it was than when I came in. Amen. And I think most people want that too.
Amen. I gotta see if I can find it while we're having I'm gonna try to multitask. Let's see how this works.
Let's do it. I'll turn the light on.
There's a quote that I heard not too long ago, and I'm gonna see if I can find it here real quick. Sorry. Here it is. George Bernard Shaw. I ran across this. I think I can't remember what celebrity quoted this off the top of his head. And I feel that this is apropos to what you just said. George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose, recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to make you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to the future generations.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so grateful because Alex Hormozy said something that was really interesting to me. Guy's an absolute genius. But he talks about how he gets over some of his fears. And again, I'm not quoting him, but he talks about how most people won't remember what he did 3 generations from now.
Yeah.
And so he's just like, whatever. And how I get over my fears, I get over them differently. It's not good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
And for me, I know my legacy can continue on, even if it's not through Clifford Starks. Could be through George Starks or Sarah Starks. I don't know who that is. But whatever we're conditioning into our youth is spreading, and it will spread. And so we ask ourselves the question, what are we looking to spread? That's why I look to spread light. because I know when a person is spreading of light, people are coming together and looking for solutions for one another. It's almost like, even with me and you, if I said, okay, what is it that you want? And then said, well, I want this. And then we can use both of our brains to help us get both of those things even faster.
Mm-hmm. Thus the community, thus coming together. And, it's what you're doing, brother. What you are doing is generational. Nobody's going to know that the influence that you did to me, that then I take what I learn and my experience from you, that I'm going to put into my kids and the kids that I'm coaching, or the community, or my neighbors, or whatever it is, whether I'm an influencer or I'm just an influencer in my own family. What you are doing, shining your light and planting your seeds, is going to affect generations. And that's such a fascinating thing to me. And where I truly learned that as a 4-H kid. So I grew up as a 4-H kid. I bleed green. And my mentors that I learned from, who believed more in me than I believed in myself, who turned me into had a huge amount to do as to who I am right now, having the courage to do what you and I are doing right now. They were mentored by people who influenced them, and now these people, I'm going to use my mentor Andy Smith as a perfect example. He's already, even during the time he was alive, he had influenced 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
While he was alive. Thousands of living people, thousands, he influenced through what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And now those 3 living generations, he passed a year and a half ago. Now those 3 living generations are going to affect how many more generations? So now your billion number, if you think of it in that aspect, it's absolutely doable.
Yeah.
100%. And I love your humility, that you're like, yeah, I'm going to influence people, but it's not going to be as Clifford Starks. Brother, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and the audacious just goals that you have, but have the humility to say it's not going to be me. That touches some warm and fuzzies in me, brother.
I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, 100% appreciate it. It's such a journey and a ride, and I am very thankful to be in it, and thankful to connect with you, and thankful for your audience too. Anyone's attention, they're saying we're taking the time to listen and hear and take it in. So absolutely appreciate any opportunity that is given to me.
Okay, so I've been asking this question, and it seems to be working fairly well. And I love this question. You've experienced a lot. You've experienced a lot, man, in your life. You've done some incredible things, and you've taken on challenges that the rest of us mortals would never consider doing. What piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Oh, document everything. Document it all, because it's cool to do it yourself, but if you can show someone else how to do it, that's just as cool.
I like it.
And that's what I was starting. Yeah, I started looking back. I'm like, holy crap. Like, there's so many pieces. There's one coach, he says it's laws, not luck. And as I started looking back at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, this is a game of law. This is cause and effect.
I
This
love
is
it.
real. And when a person
Oh,
can see a blueprint, it makes it a lot easier to go follow through and do the things that they need to do.
I agree. I agree. And where I agree with that is that I am probably the worst at not following blueprints, but I am the worst at I can do it myself. I mean, I am a big 2-year-old. Let's just be honest. I am a big 2-year-old. And
We all are in
I
one way or fashion.
well, in this, I completely admit that I am that big 2-year-old in the fact that I'm like, I can do it myself. It's just my redneck nature comes out and be like, I can do it. And what I've learned time and time and time again is that no, Dale, no. Why? Why do it yourself? Why? And I admit also how dumb I am in the fact that this is a lesson that's been way too long in learning is I am also a people person. I am a team-oriented individual. I am not a solo person, you know. And I so respect the people that can just do it themselves. And they have that individual intrinsic drive to do it themselves. I respect that. Holy smokes. But I have a drive of I gain my energy from everybody around me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I get stuff done. That's why I work well in committees. That's why I work well on boards. That's why I work well in teams is that, you know, when we come together, have that energy. I have to, I actually have to, when I become part of a new program, I'm like, okay, full disclosure, if you tell me to do something and you give me clarity to do it, I'm going to go do it. And I don't want to
Yeah.
step on toes. I have a tendency of taking shit over. And
Yeah.
it's not that I'm trying to be controlling. It's just, I go. But if I do that just for myself, I falter and I don't have the same drive and I don't have the same, I think, drive if I'm just doing it for myself.
You know, I think it was Albert Einstein who said this is if I had a bird try to swim and a fish try to fly, they'd both look like idiots. Know who you are. Like, I mean,
Amen.
that's the name of the game. Know who you are.
Amen. Yeah. Some of us, though, brother, I feel that some of us, it takes a lifetime to learn that.
Oh, yeah. My mom was a hospice nurse. So I got to see people on their deathbeds. And like part of my fearlessness, it's not fearlessness. It's just I've seen things that other people haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
When you see enough people die and wasting their dreams, you get pretty fearless,
Yeah.
especially when you're young.
Yeah.
And I look at what's so interesting because you say, I feel I got to do things on my own. I think we all do that to an extent. And so I kind of paint it out as if there was a minefield, right? And someone had the blueprint of where the mines were, would you take the blueprint or would you say, like, you know what? I want to do this on my own. Well, by all means, good luck to you.
I'm going to follow the guy with the blueprint. And
yeah.
as leaders, okay, I'm going to ask this question. We're getting pushed up on our time here, but let me ask you this. As leaders, do you think leaders should or are good followers as well?
The best ones are. The not so
Why?
good leaders are not good followers. Leaders learn to lead by following good leaders.
It's as simple as that, isn't it?
yeah.
Because follow-up question or follow-up discussion is that If they're not good, are we now bouncing into the realm of just managers?
Yeah.
Because to you, what's the definition difference between a manager and a leader?
So I'm gonna go off of this is Ryan Dice. Ryan Dice talks about a leader as an influencer. And an influencer who doesn't have manager skills or authority, and this is business context specifically, they can lead their people off of a cliff. Being an influencer, to me, that's only a piece of being a leader to me. So I was thinking of the authority, leader, and manager. A leader is looking to get all good at all three of those things consistently. But a good leader is someone who can influence others and influence themselves. And they polish that muscle and sharpen that muscle and tweak that muscle and get better at that muscle, just like a bodybuilder prepares themselves, but the bodybuilder does not prepare without a coach. Not at the Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at a regional meet you can do that and you can win the game. But if you think you can get in the Olympia and you can just do it all by yourself, you need eyes on you.
Yeah.
When this thing starts going crazy, because it's going to, especially when you're dieting, when you're exercising, when you're doing your cardio, when you're doing all of those things, this thing gets nuts.
Mm-hmm. So with that trust,
yeah,
and faith, we as leaders, as people, trust and faith have to be a huge piece of this as well, because leaders tend to have the vision and they have so that they know where they're going.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Right. And so if
give
the
me a
organization,
second. My wife wants to ask a question.
No worries at all. See, this is it. I love it. This is life. This is life. I love it. So
Life is so real. It's always exists.
Is if we don't trust and we don't have faith of the people that have the vision and the direction that needs to be going, then there's no community. There's no, I don't know what the other term I'm coming up with. And do we actively try to build faith and trust, or is that a byproduct of us just being good at what we do?
Can you say that again? Because you froze up for a second.
Oh, no. Okay. Is trust, now I got to think of how I asked the question. Are we trying to build trust and faith, or is that a byproduct of us just being good at what we do?
That's a good question. So, man, I think it depends on the person. Like, I'll give you an example. When Michelle introduced me to you, I trusted Michelle's judgment. And you probably equally trusted Michelle's judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is always a very layered question, because it depends on like who's garnering the resource. How did they decide to bring these two people together? What happened with all of those pieces? And then how much research was done? How dangerous or risky is the action that's being taken? And what I mean by that is she connected us for a conversation. But what if she connected us because two other people because someone needed a brain surgery done, right? Now that's a little bit of a different, like,
Mm-hmm.
the risk factors are really, really high, People want to make sure their brains are okay, and they're probably going to do extra digging. And so that's where I look at there's always a cycle going on, just like confidence can create competence and competence can create confidence. And that's one of the reasons I actually give people simple things to do first, because I want them to get wins, because the most important thing is momentum at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess ultimately what I'm saying with the question is it depends. Like, it depends on what is the leader's role do for that person? How invested is that leader's decision going to affect the other person? Because they might trust them, like, hey, can you give me a glass of water? Oh, I trust you to do that. That shouldn't be too hard. Hey, you're not going to screw me out of millions of dollars, are you? People are going to check a little bit more for something like that.
Right. And with that, I guess in an organizational aspect, I think I might be looking at it more of an organizational aspect than an individual. And you're absolutely right. I totally understand what you're saying there. And I feel also that the natural leaders, well, okay, no, I'm going to go there. Is leadership innate or can it be created?
I think we actually answered the question during our conversation, because you were mentioning what feeds you, and then you were also talking about what feeds other people. So you put someone in the right culture, they're going to shine in that culture. You put them in the wrong culture, all of a sudden they look like doofuses.
Ooh,
So
like
you put a fish on a tree. Oh, that's not a very good leader. You put a bird in the water. You're not a very good leader unless you're a duck and you're swimming up top. Now you have a chance, but
I like that.
Culture's the key. Yeah.
I like that. And skill level. And, there's more pieces and puzzles to it, but Clifford, this has been amazing, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your family allowing me to have you for this amount of time. And the challenge always is where I'm at. I'm your tomorrow right now.
Yeah.
And that scheduling makes things a little bit more difficult. And I really appreciate you working around that and being honest and sharing with us and taking a leap on me, because we just had a short conversation. And you want to talk about trust, trusting that I'm not going to be over here making a complete and total ass out of everything. That's a big leap. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, 100%.
I may still have made an ass of everything, but I don't know.
I had one podcast that was not fun to be on. And I learned a lesson through that process. It was only one, thank goodness. But I'm really, 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 really cognizant and intentional with the people that I connect with. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate you and appreciate Michelle for connecting us. And again, appreciate the audience for watching, and hopefully I gave them some value that they could walk away from and really take some action on.
I agree. I agree. And so with that, once again, I want to say thank you for putting that trust in me and being honest and open on here again. This is such an incredible platform that we have access to do what you're wanting to do, which is influence the billion people. And I'm very humbled that I get to be this much of that. Well, not even that much of that. And I'm looking forward to you and I continuing to build a relationship and talking and growing. And who knows, in the next couple, 3 months, jump back on here again, talk about the growth that you've gone through and the people that you've helped, and we can do a recap and go from there. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows? All right. Any last piece of advice for everybody on?
Yeah. Keep enjoying the journey, everyone. And just, if I could say two things that have served me over and over again, it's be enthusiastic and be intentional with life. When you can get those two right, life starts showing up for you. So we're always constantly being worked on as we go through the journey, and challenges are going to come our way. But just keep being enthusiastic and being intentional along the way, and you will shock yourself and shock the world.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna call that right there. That we cannot say it better than that right there. Clifford Starks, you are a rock star. You're an ass kicker now. You've always been an ass kicker, but now you're part of the KickASSery ass kickers. Whatever.
I love it. I love it.
So, brother, stay on here for a few more minutes. We're going to wrap this up. Ladies and gentlemen, Clifford Starks. This is KickASSery. You've been listening to Dale and Clifford for the last hour, and this is what we do. I'm really enjoying this journey. I'm looking forward to where this journey ends up taking us in the future. And with that, guys, I love your face. I wish I could speak.